Hello and welcome to the Backman Report, where every week Fred Altvater and I check in on the world of golf to bring you the latest news, insights, analysis, interviews, recaps, previews. Hey, we cover anything and everything golf. In other words, if it happened in golf, we have it for you. But you all know this week is a major. It's the US Open, and there's a lot of storylines, and we need the reinforcements. We have to bring in the European golf guru, Kieran Clark. Kieran, I'm going to bring you first. How are you this week?
I'm very well, Carlos. Thank you for having me on the show as always. And as you say, it is another major. This is really the summer of golf. Every week it feels like we have a major, whether it be on the LPGA Tour, the PGA Tour, or indeed the Champions Tour. There's so much great action. And obviously coming to the US Open, the 121st US Open at Torrey Pines. We remember the drama we saw there back in 2008, one of the truly great, most unforgettable championships. If we have anything like that this week, they remember something very, very special indeed. So yeah, the majors this year have been really intriguing, history-making so far, obviously with Hideki Matsuyama winning the Masters, having that breakthrough for a male golfer from Japan, and then, of course, what Phil Mickelson did at Kiawah
Who?
Island.
Who's
Oh,
he?
I mean, just for me, that was one of the best majors I've seen in many years, and one of the great stories, and Phil really etching his own place in history. And who knows, he could be the story again this week. Certainly eyes will be on him. So yeah, Carlos, I'm looking forward to the US Open. I think it sets up really intriguingly, and we could hopefully see yet another classic major.
Most definitely, and that's one of the storylines that we're going to be talking about today. But Fred, hi, how are you this week?
Hey guys, I'm great. I'm coming to you live from Cincinnati tonight. Got to play a new Fry Straka renovation at Kenwood Country Club. It's an old 1932 course. Donald Ross helped pick the site. He didn't design the course, but he helped pick the site for it. Great old golf course. Of course, Dana Fry, Jason Straka, they just did a fantastic job. Took out a lot of trees, restored this thing. The bunkering is fantastic. Had a great time playing there today.
Most definitely. And we are looking forward to talking about the US Open because it is the toughest major. At least they say that, right? It's back and back at one of its most notable locales. I mean, for the first time, like Kieran mentioned, since that dramatic playoff win by Tiger Woods over Rocco Mediate in 2008, the US Open is returning to Torrey Pines, and we have a lot to talk about this. Finally, Kieran, it returns to its customary June spot, finishing in Father's Day after a COVID-induced fall finish last year. We know, and we're going to be talking about Bryson DeChambeau, who validated every bit of his boundless self-confidence last year that week at Winged Foot when he outdistanced the field. But we'll keep a little bit about that for later. But how about being back in Torrey Pines?
Well, as we said, Carlos, I mean, obviously the 2008 US Open there was one of the most unforgettable majors we've ever seen. That is the image of Tiger Woods holding that putt on the 72nd hole to get into the playoff and tie Rocco Mediate is one of the great moments of Tiger's career. And to me, it's arguably his greatest victory in so many aspects. And the sheer extraordinary will to win that he showed that week, obviously playing on the broken leg and the sheer pain. And we all know that Tiger had an extraordinary talent and skill set, one of the best we've ever seen, and obviously an incredible drive to succeed on the golf course. But to me, that US Open that week showcased what truly made Tiger Woods a unique athlete in sport, almost otherworldly, like he dropped in from space, from another planet. No one else could have won that US Open apart from Tiger Woods, and it's right up there as one of the highlights of his career. And it's ultimately, for that reason, one of the truly great US Opens in memory. And actually, when I was thinking back in the US Open in the past 10 to 15 years, for a lot of good US Opens, for a lot of great winners and great champions. But I think that might really be the last truly great US Open that we've seen. Since then, we've had some questionable venues, some controversial course setups, and things that have really divided opinion. Rules issues and so on, and the USJ have often become the story. But this is America's national championship, and it's hard not to get caught up in that great history. But yeah, the Torrey Pines 2008 US Open was one of the truly great championships. And I'd say if we can have anything anywhere near that in terms of drama, we'll have a great one. So we can talk about the golf course shortly, but as a venue itself, I think, yeah, it's imprinted in our mind from that June week back in 2008, and a repeat of that or something close to it, well, would be very special indeed.
Carlos, you have your mute on?
Yes, I do. And
now we briefly lost Carlos there.
Not anymore.
Lost for words.
Yeah. Me lost for words? Come on.
You took his breath away, Kieran, with all that.
I mean, I was just transported back to 2008. I was just there.
Speechless. You're right. Well, yeah, yes.
The way that you described it, I was just living it back again, Fred. How about Torrey Pines, one of the classic locales for a major, and specifically for a US Open? I think it's perfect.
Yeah, this is really a good golf course. We get to see it every year, of course, for the Farmers Insurance. And it was always one of Tiger's favorites, right? He's won here like 8 times. You know, he grew up in that area. Of course, Phil Mickelson is from there, so he's a favorite this week. You got Xander Schauffele growing up there. But Torrey Pines, you know, one of the things that's a little bit different that nobody's really talking about is that, you know, Reese Jones has been kind of the golf whisperer for the USGA for a long time, and he set up a lot of USGA courses, have done renovations. Matter of fact, he did a renovation here at Torrey Pines in 2001, and he did it again in 2019, getting ready for this US Open. And this likely will probably be the last Reese Jones renovation or course that he gets his hands on for a USGA US Open Championship. So he's done a fantastic job over the years getting these courses ready and making them challenging and keeping them updated so that the distance isn't really a factor. Speaking of Torrey, this is going to be up to 7,600 yards that it can play to. It's just, it's a real bear of a golf course. And I just can't wait to see it. I really think the guys are going to be challenged. I mean, we've seen them challenged there in February and March when they have the Farmers Insurance. So the course should be a little bit firmer. It should be a little bit faster. And that, you know, you got to be on your game when you're playing something like that.
And when you're playing on the US Open, the rough is something that you have to deal with. Most definitely. But Fred, a lot of people ask, okay, how do you get here? We just played in September last year, but you have to qualify. This is a championship field, a very strong field, but you have to qualify as well to get here. And we know about a very important player that didn't make it to this week. But how about the qualifying process and how do the players get here?
Well, there's only 88 exempt players in the 156-man field. So a lot of people had to qualify. A lot of pros had to qualify to get there because you have to be in the top 50 in the world. You have to have won a major in the last 5 years. You know, there's a lot of stuff that needs to go in there to get an exemption. But anybody with a low handicap, and I think what is it? It's around a 1 handicap. You can go to a local qualifier. If you make it out of there, you can go to a regional qualifier. If you make it out of there, you're in the US Open. And in fact, every year we see, you know, 3 or 4 really unlikely people show up at the US Open, and, you know, they probably don't make the cut, but they have the week of their life getting to play a practice round with one of the top names, or just being in the same driving range with a Phil Mickelson or a Brooks Koepka or somebody like that. So the local qualifying, there was over 9,000 entries this year for guys that wanted to try to get into the US Open. And they whittle all those down. You know, they have the longest day on the Monday after the Memorial. You've got 2 courses in Ohio that hold it. You got 14 courses all around the world that host qualifiers. And so it takes a lot. It's a real marathon to get in this thing if you are not one of the exempt players. Of course, Bryson DeChambeau is a defending champion, but there's a lot of guys just sitting there waiting to take that trophy back, Carlos.
We can't wait to see who's going to challenge him, and we have some clues for you a little bit later. So don't change it. Okay, stay here. But Kieran, from the European side, how do you see this process of qualifying? What is your take on it for the European players or maybe worldwide players trying to get into the US Open?
Well, obviously, it's been different in the past 2 years with the COVID era in terms of European qualifiers. But I think the US Open, it's one of the truly great things about this championship is that it is still truly open. And as Fred touched on, such a great number of the field come through qualifying. And there's that pathway from the grassroots of the game all the way up to the championship. And that's fantastic. And we've seen stories in the past. I mean, obviously, there was Michael Campbell who came through the European qualifier, the first European qualifier that they had in 2005. And he went on to win the US Open at Pinehurst that year. And then you can go way back to 1969 at the Champions Club in Texas, where Orville Moody, he came through local qualifying and sectional qualifying, and he won the US Open, one of the most unlikely wins that we've ever seen. And the last time that's ever happened, somebody came through the whole process to actually go on to win the championship. So it's great we have that aspect to it. And actually, I saw on social media this week from the Twitter account, Monday Q at Q Info, you can find that a case of the golf one is the handle. And on Twitter, and he noted that actually amongst this field, there are 40 players who don't have PGA Tour status in that field. So that just shows you, whether it be club pros, guys who have fallen off the main tour, guys who are rising, amateurs, etc., international players. There's a great mix of talent in there. And it's a potential stage to change your life and showcase your skills in a great environment. So it's one of the great things about the US Open. And I think it coming to a venue like Torrey Pines as well, which of course, as we know, is a public course, anyone can go and play there. And I was checking out the rates for this, Carlos. If we want to go for a little play date together at some point, we can go there. Unfortunately, we're not San Diego residents. If you're a San Diego resident, you can play for just $38 on the South Course at a twilight rate, or $63 on a weekday in normal time. So non-residents, which would be us, we can play for $202 regularly, or $122 in the evening. So expensive, but at least you can play. And that's a great thing to have in golf. And we're taking championships to these more open venues, open championship, an open venue. And maybe that's more what golf should be about, rather than the very, closed doors of some of the more traditional clubs. So it's a great thing, like Bethpage Black and Torrey Pines as well. So it stands out for that reason. But yeah, the qualifying aspect of US Open, Carlos, is one of the things that I think makes it distinct and makes it a really great championship, is it still has that grassroots pathway, potentially, to greatness.
It's always great to have somebody with deep pockets like Fred, so he can.
Yeah, we can just tag along with him, can't we? That's right. Yeah,
incredible. We can.
If I have to pay, I don't play.
That's spoken like a true golf media person. That I've got to say, that's.
He proved it. That's it. No more.
Free golf and free lunch, baby. That's me.
All right, let's dive right into the championship field, and we have to talk about the guy of the hour, and that's Phil Mickelson, because a lot of people say, a lot of guys say, that was the one that I let go away, right? Let go, couldn't get with her or anything like that. For Phil Mickelson, this is the tournament that he has not won to complete his career Grand Slam, and he thinks that he has a very good opportunity. Vegas doesn't see it that way. I mean, he's like plus 5,000 right now, which is not a good endorsement for him. But he comes from winning the PGA Championship. He had reluctantly accepted an exemption to play this year. Now he doesn't need it because he's in. So, Fred, how about Phil Mickelson? How about his chances to win here?
You know what? After winning the PGA at one of the most difficult golf courses in the world, the Ocean Course at Kiawah Island, I'm not gonna bet against Phil Mickelson. I would be surprised if he won a little bit, but you know what? He could do it. And his quest, he's had six runner-ups. A couple of those he just flat gave away. And so his big issue was his mindset, or his attitude, or his focus over the 4 days of hanging in there and being able to overcome the adversity that everyone is going to have in a US Open championship. He just, in the PGA, he let those run up. When he made a bogey, he just kept on playing, keep making those pars. If a birdie presents itself, fine. Same way here. The rough is going to be, it's going to be tough. I mean, they have really good rough at Torrey Pines, even during the Farmers Insurance. It's difficult rough. So I know it's going to be really difficult for this championship. So there's going to be a bunch of bogeys, and there'll probably be some double bogeys. So you just have to just play each hole, stay focused, and stay in the moment. But in his 18 starts at Torrey Pines in the Farmers Insurance, since his 2001 victory, Phil has only had 4 top 10 finishes. His best result came in 2011 when he shot 68-69 the weekend, finished second to Bubba Watson by 1 shot. In the last 7 years at the Farmers Open have been not very kind to Phil. He's missed the cut 3 times, withdrawn once with a sore back, skipped 1 year to play in the Middle East, and has the best finish of tied for 14th in 2017. So the last few years have not been good there, but he knows the golf course. He grew up there. He's won there 3 times. So yeah, he could do it. Odds are that he won't, but won't be surprised if he does.
Well, he won back-to-back there when it was the Buick Invitational, right? Now it's the Farmers Insurance Open. That was 2000, 2001. The issue I see is 3 months after that 2001 victory, the South Course came into a major redesign. It's not that same course that he used to tore apart. But nonetheless, Kieran, he does know this course very, very well. So what you think about his chances coming in to the US Open?
Well, why not? I mean, why not indeed? I mean, who saw that coming at Kiawah Island? I mean, it's an amazing story, amazing victory. And Fred brought up Phil's kind of new Zen-like approach. He's become like a Yoda-type monk figure where he's meditating and he's in a different dimension on the golf course, very focused, hides behind the giant sunglasses, and he's, and that seems to work for him. And he's done the same coming into this. He's spoken about how he's a very quiet preparation. He was at Torrey Pines last week, just practicing. He's turned off his phone, so he's not doing social media, which he's become an expert at, it seems like, recently. So he's trying to detach himself from the outside world. And we saw at Kiawah Island where he almost detached himself from the gallery. Phil famously has always been very open with the fans, the thumbs up, looking people in the eye, all this kind of stuff, high fives. There wasn't really any of that at Kiawah Island. He was very much focused on what he was doing, to stay in that moment, stay in that process, and it obviously worked for him. So, I mean, you got to say, the likelihood is, as Fred said, he won't win because the odds are it's very slim you're going to win 2 majors in a row, particularly at 51 years of age. But no one at Torrey Pines this week will be feeling better about themselves than Phil Mickelson does. And there's no doubt that he's not going to be afraid of the situation if he gets into contention. And I would love to see him at least get in there into the weekend, have some form of chance, because it would really liven things up a little bit. So yeah, I mean, the odds are it's going to be hard for him to win, but if he keeps the ball in play, and you touched on, Carlos, the really thick rough, and it's a US Open, so you go on Twitter, you see videos of guys dropping balls into rough everywhere. That seems to be the thing every year. The same this year. If he drives the ball as well as he did at times at Kiawah Island, then he will score well, because inside 150 yards, he's still a fantastic player, and he's arguably the best player over the last 25 years, one of the best of all time from that distance. And that's actually why his US Open record has been so good. I mean, to finish runner-up 6 times is remarkable. And people will say, oh, Phil, he's wayward off the tee, drives the ball everywhere, he can't possibly compete in a US Open. Well, he does, more so than guys that have actually won the thing. And it was Jeff Ogilvy, I think, who explained why. And I always steal my best lines from Jeff Ogilvy. And he said, really, that the reason Phil does so well in the US Open is because ultimately in a US Open, everybody's going to miss fairways. Everybody's going to be in trouble. And there's nobody better at that than Phil Mickelson, escaping from the trouble and getting up and down and hitting wedge shots from the rough into close distance, holding putts, chipping in, that kind of thing. He's able to do that. And that's why he's able to score on these really, really tough golf courses, despite the fact that he can't be wayward off the tee. if he drives the ball well, he'll have a chance of playing really well. So, as I say, it would be a fantastic story, unbelievable story. It would be this, it would even surpass what he did, obviously, at Kiwo Island. But who knows? It'd be fantastic, and it'd be, he already is a story of a championship coming into it. There's no doubt about that. But whatever happens this year or the next 4 or 5 years now, for the exemption that he has, if he doesn't win the US Open, Phil's place in history is secure. And I think especially now that he has his own little slice of history as the oldest major winner, that might never be beaten. And that's his own little place in the pedestal in the game. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully he gets into contention, because that would make things very, very interesting. But it's hard to say he's going to win. But you know what? He will believe. He's the one guy that will believe, and I'm not going to say he can't do it.
I'm not going to say it either. I mean, we look foolish after the PGA Championship saying he's not even going to make the cut, and
well, you said that. I didn't say that. You said that.
I did.
Don't tarnish me with your terrible predictions, Carlos. I didn't say that.
Come on. We have it on record. But anyway, let's talk about now the defending champion, Bryson DeChambeau. And before we get to him, I want to get with you guys and ask you. It would be this ESPN reporter, Kevin Van Valkenburg, requested to the US Open, hey, stop about this show and all that. I want you guys to pair Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka on the same pairing, tee times, those first two. And I say, I want you guys to make it. I'm going to write to the US Open. I was going to say, just do it one better, put Patrick Reed as well there.
That would be fantastic.
You want to drive the ratings, let's do it that way. You'll see. Because it's funny, right? I mean, this feud that is going there, still on the fence whether it's really a feud or not, because it just started after the player impact program, right?
Yeah, well.
So I don't know if it's true or not. But anyway, I just picture them back in the weight rooms after the tournaments. You see, we did well, right? Awesome, well done.
We'll split the $4 million.
I mean, first it was Patrick Reed. Now I think he's happy that Brooks then started to be the guy, and now Brooks might be happy that it's also Bryson, right? So Patrick is like the forgotten guy. He would be just out driving them there. But anyway, Kieran, Bryson DeChambeau. Last year, he was able to tame Winged Foot. Can he do the same here in Torrey Pines and win and defend and go back to back?
Well, it's a rare thing. And of course, his great pal, Brooks Koepka, did successfully defend the US Open, which is a very rare thing indeed. So, maybe that's added inspiration there. Well, if Brooks can do it, I can go and do it as well. I think actually, you look back at the win at Winged Foot last year, ultimately that was one of the great US Open performances. To humble that golf course the way he did in the end was staggering. Again, I think we kind of forget about those majors to an extent because they were very low key and there was no crowds there, and you lose a bit of an edge to it in that sense. But it was a fantastic performance, and obviously, how you said earlier, it validated everything that he's been talking about to that point. He has obviously lost his way a little bit on the golf course since the Florida Swing, when he won at Bay Hill and had the great run at the Players. Hasn't done much since then. And he hasn't actually played at Torrey Pines in the Farmers Insurance since 2018. So this is not one of his favoured go-to venues, it seems like. Whether that counts so much, I'm not too sure, given it's a US Open setup. Obviously, Bryson's very capable of doing great things in the golf course. But I've got to say, I just don't see enough in his game right now over the past 2 months, really since the Florida Swing, to suggest that he's going to go on and defend the title this week. Obviously, he's a great player. All the talent and all the skill is there. The potential is there, but I just don't really see the evidence right now that this will be his week. I think he will have great weeks in the future, but I think his game has still got a little bit of a way to go consistently to be contending in a major championship like this.
Fred, how about this? I think that Torrey Pines would set up for his bombs, but I think the rough, like he was hitting it, he was hitting the rough very often last year. It's going to be different here at Torrey Pines for him, especially when it gets out of it. How is it going to bounce? Because Torrey Pines is very different than Winged Foot.
Yeah, but we all said that at Wingfoot, right? That
Yes, he proved us all wrong. Yeah.
and he proved that he could hack it out of that rough because he's strong. He can take those 60-degree wedges and those sand wedges and blast it out, and it comes out and sits pretty decent on the greens. So I'm not going to discount him for that. I think the bigger issue is if he's coming out of the rough, can he keep it near enough the hole that he won't three putt? I think that's the bigger issue with him at Torrey Pines and playing out of that tall grass, because you can't get the spin on it that you would off the fairway. And I'll tell you what, I have not been impressed the last 2 months with Bryson DeChambeau's wedge game. I've seen him stick a lot of clubs in the ground. He just does not. His timing is not there with that wedge game right now. So he's not played. He's not done that well over the last 2 months. Maybe he'll find something and turn around this week. His length is a big plus for sure, and his strength getting out of the rough. So, we thought last year he'd be hitting in the rough and he wouldn't be able to handle it, but he was close enough. He could hit short wedges and dig it out of that rough and keep it on the green. I really think it comes down to his putting. Plus, his short game has not been that bad, even from the fairways lately. So that's what I would watch for him.
We'll see. I mean, I still think it's going to be a different type of rough at Torrey Pines. I just think he's just trying to lean too much in that strength, which was what he did last year. And it's going to be a different animal this year. But hey, he can validate it again and make us look foolish. Anyway, how about Fred, his great buddy, Brooks Koepka? I mean, he's always a major threat, and he won the U.S. Open back-to-back, so he does have the game to win at the U.S. Open.
Well, we counted him out in the PGA, right? I mean, he can't bend over. He can't play. His leg's bad. He can't walk. He might as well not even tee it up. He might as well WD right now. I guess he was runner-up at the PGA, wasn't he? I guess he did give Phil a run there. Oh, yeah. Well, maybe we want to talk about Brooks a little bit. You know what? Brooks has an ego the size of Texas, man. And he does not want to get beat. And, he wants to get his name back on that trophy. I don't care if he has to limp around there on one leg like Tiger did when it was broke. He's going to play, and he can keep it in the fairways a lot better than Bryson can, probably a little better than Phil can. He's strong like Bryson is, so he can dig it out of that rough, and he has a pretty good short game. So, and he's a dynamite putter. So I don't know. We didn't give him much of a chance at the PGA because of his health, because of his leg, but he proved us wrong there. I'm not going to bet against him. He's kind of a little hot under the collar with all the things that people are talking about him. He's like Tiger, uses that stuff for motivation. So come Sunday, wouldn't be surprised to see him up there in the top 10 somewhere.
If anybody wants to see, do a bet on the side and watch him win, just say, "Hey, Brooks, you're not gonna even make the cut," and you'll see you'll be rewarded in your bet. But Kieran, one of the things that he has that maybe most of the golfers don't have is that will, that mental toughness that he has, because like Fred was saying, yes, he uses a lot of that for inspiration, but really is his will. He wants to win. He wants to win the big tournaments, maybe more than anybody else in golf right now. So how about Brooks's chances to win?
Oh, you can't rule him out. I mean, you can't ignore him. I think his performance at Keel Island was, in many respects, just as exceptional as Phil Mickelson's. To be up there and contending over 4 days, given his physical limitations on a really long golf course, was remarkable, and also a lack of competitive play. He has this innate ability to just switch it on at the big time moments. I mean, he turns up for the regular tour events and often just goes through the motions and he's just there to make up the numbers and pick up a check, and that's about it. But he gets to these big championships. He's up for that. He loves it, and his record is just extraordinary. In the U.S. Open, he missed last year's U.S. Open in September due to injury, so he wasn't there to see his great pal win at Wingfoot. But his last 3 U.S. Open starts have actually been second to Gary Woodland at Pebble Beach, and then first, and then first. I mean, you can't ignore that. I mean, that's staggering. That's Ben Hogan-esque U.S. Open played out right there. So he's someone who I think it's hard to, when you're drawing up a list of 5 to 10 guys that are going to have a chance to win. I don't care what physical condition Brooks Koepka's in. He's got to be on that list because he's someone who, when he gets in that position, he has a proven record, and you can, buy into him winning again. And it would not surprise me whatsoever if he was up there again and winning on Sunday, because he has the game, he has the mentality. And, as much as he obviously was, the run at the PGA was unlikely, and a lot of guys would be quite content with that. I think he would be very frustrated about how he finished at the PGA. He missed a lot of putts, played some very poor golf in the final round, and made it a bit easier for Phil. And I think that frustration was evident afterwards with his reaction with the crowd, and then the whole Bryson issue he had in the video and interview. And I think a lot of that was born out of frustration as to how he finished that PGA. So, but he's someone who I think just goes on to the next one and doesn't dwell on it. So I think Brooks will do well here. Doesn't have much form on this golf course, but I think he's someone who just turns up, and it's a major. It's on the billboard. Major championship, Brooks Koepka, they're married together, and I think he'll play well this week.
How about John Ram? John Ram, I'm still mad that they had to be forced to withdraw. I understand the rules, but I'm just mad because, he tested negative 2 weeks in a row last week, just shortly after that. So maybe if they would have done that split sample, shut up. Okay, sorry about that. I'll let it go. I'll let it go like frozen. But anyway, John Ram, that meant that he was able to get out before the 10-day that he was supposed to be isolated. I'm not too worried about getting him here late. At least he has some time to practice. We remember he got to Augusta just the day before the play started because his wife had given birth. So, and he finished T7. So I'm not too worried. I mean, he plays well in this course. He has won here before. So how about Kieran? How about John Ram? Do you think that layoff is gonna hit him and not be, is gonna impact him? How about his chances to win?
I think he has a great chance to win, and I don't think the layoff will impact him. He has an exceptional record here at Torrey Pines, obviously a different setup in many respects in the Farmers Insurance, but it doesn't hurt to have a great record on the same venue, and he enjoys the environment, and enjoys the golf course, loves the place. And obviously what happened at the Memorial was incredibly unfortunate and very difficult, but ultimately he came away from that tournament in a great place in his game, 69, 65, 64 at Muirfield Village. I mean, that's incredible golf. And he could have had one of the dominant victories of the year had it obviously played out how he'd want to, but obviously circumstances dictated that wasn't the case. But he has the power, he has the strength, he has the touch to succeed here at Torrey Pines. I'm not sure how much practice he was able to do in the week after the Memorial in terms of the isolation, etc. But I don't think it matters too much. I think he's someone who will turn up here and a few practice rounds. I think he'll be raring to go because his game is clearly in a very good place. And I think he should go really, really well. And you were looking for John Ram to have that big breakthrough. And, this could be the week. And maybe after what happened at Muirfield Village, it'd be a great story in its own respect to come back from that to win a major championship. So if you're rooting for the story this week, which I always do, obviously Phil's number one, but I mean, John Ram is a story after his past few weeks. It would be up there. So, I mean, Dustin Johnson came back and won the Masters after, a COVID test and all the rest of it. So maybe John Ram will follow in his footsteps. So, but certainly his game's in a great place. He's playing well, confident, and he's at a venue that he loves. So all the ingredients there are there for him to miss the cut after I've said all that. But no, I think he will play quite well. And I think he's definitely in my top 4 or 5 players this week. I think he's probably, given the form of the likes of DJ and Justin Thomas, etc., I think John Ram might very well be the guy to beat. I think if you finish ahead of John Ram, you might have won the US Open.
I think he's going to play really, really well. He'll be really motivated to win after what happened at the Memorial. Fred, I think as long as he remains asymptomatic, he's good to go. What do you think?
You've heard me say this many, many times. If you can win at Muirfield Village, you have to be a favorite to win a U.S. Open. We saw Morikawa, we saw Patrick Cantlay, we saw John Rahm. And Rahm has won there before, and he was playing lights out. He was at an unbelievable level playing Muirfield Village. Nobody was even close to him there. And so I agree with Kieran wholeheartedly. He's got to be in the top four of players that can win this week. He's got the length, he's got the strength. I'm not sure about the chipping around the greens. I've seen him hit some miscues on that, but if he can find a few fairways and knock it on some greens, he's a good enough putter. He could be right there.
He definitely could be, and he likes to putt in the Poa Annua greens that Torrey Pines has. That's like his favorite surface, and I think that's one of the reasons why he does so well here. But Fred, we talked about my dream pairing of Brooks and Bryson and Patrick Reed. He won just 4 months ago here. Like Kieran saying, this is a different setup, but he knows how to play here, and he's under the radar. When he's under the radar, he seems like he always raises the level of his play. So how about Patrick Reed and his chances?
Well, I think he's a good bet simply for the reason that you talked about, Phil, earlier with his short game. Patrick Reed's short game is second to none. He's really good around the greens from 100 yards in. He's really good. If he misses a green in that tall stuff just off the fringe, he's really good at getting it up and down and maybe even chipping it in. So that's why he's a factor here. He's not as long as some of these guys. He's not as accurate as some of these guys, but he is tenacious as anybody, and his short game could carry him, and the putting as well. He's a very good putter when he gets on that. And, he's a bulldog, man. If he gets a hold of your leg, he's not going to let go. So, and Patrick would just love nothing better than to throw it into Brooks's face and into the golf fandom's face that, hey, I'm here, I'm winning. You got to love me, baby.
He definitely would. What you think, Kieran, about Patrick Reed?
Yeah, I think Patrick Reed's almost underrated at every major. And I think the reason for that is people don't talk about him because they don't want to talk about him. They don't want to see him win. It's nothing to do with his game or his ability. They just have an issue with him as an individual. So he doesn't get the big press that the other players do. But there's no question he has, Fred touched on it there, a tenacious game. The US Open's so much about being a great scorer, getting the ball around the golf course. That's why guys like Lee Janzen and Andy North, not necessarily great golfers in the technical aspect, but they're really, really good at getting the ball around the golf course and getting the ball in the hole. And that counts for an awful lot in the US Open. And Reed is a great exponent of that. Fantastic short game, great putter, and just has that attitude that can take him far. So I think he's in a decent place, and winning here obviously this year is a good thing and sets him up well, but obviously some decent form of late. He was 5th at Memorial 2 weeks ago as well, so he's in a decent place of his game, so decent form there. And I think he's someone that you can never really rule out in a major. So he's not at the top echelon of my picks this week, but he's certainly someone who I think will appear on that leaderboard at some point over the 4 days.
Fred, how about Jordan Spieth? He's riding a hot wave. He seems to be back to the Jordan Spieth of old. The only thing that's left for him is to win a major. I mean, 5 top 10s in his last 7 starts, including that win at the Valero. So how about Jordan? I think he should be, I would consider him one of the top players to win this week.
I'd love to pick Jordan Spieth. I'd love to say that he's going to be really good this week, but I just am not feeling it. I just don't think his driving is good enough. The rough in a U.S. Open will not permit good scoring if you're hitting it out of that deep rough all the time. If you got any questions about that, just ask Lexi Thompson. She knows a little bit about driving it into the rough on the back 9 on Sunday and trying to make pars. It doesn't work. And Jordan, just his driver is still suspect. And he's got a great short game. He's a great putter, and from 170 yards in, he's just fantastic if he's in the fairway. But if he's playing out of the rough all the time, it ain't going to happen, guys.
Wow, that's surprising that you're not picking Jordan Spieth among your favorites.
I love him. I absolutely love him, but not this week with this kind of rough.
Wow, Kieran, how about you? Or do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I'm going to shock you, Carlos. This is breaking news. I agree with Fred.
No.
That can't happen. That can't happen.
I'm sorry. It has to happen. It has to happen. I know. I would love, Fred loves Jordan Spieth. I would love to disagree with Fred, but I'm afraid I also love Jordan Spieth, and I don't think he has much of a chance this week. I actually think the US Open is not the major for him, and I think it's quite telling that the US Open he actually won at Chambers Bay was a completely atypical US Open. It was nothing like any other US Open. It was an extraordinarily outlandish setup and course, and something that we've never really seen elsewhere. And I think it was one of those. It's clear that's why he won there. Whereas out with that week, his best finish otherwise in the US Open is just 17th. And that was at Pinehurst the year before that. Again, another more open golf course in terms of lack of rough, etc. Since then, he hasn't finished better in the US Open than 35th in 5 years. So the US Open is not the major for him in comparison to the others. And he has been in fantastic form this year. It's been great to see him back in contention again, back as one of the best players in the world, because he is so compelling to watch. He is one of the, for me, he's up there as the best player to watch in the world, because anything can happen. There's brilliance, there's drama. It's just a ride all the way around. But as Fred touched on, I just do not think his driving allows him to succeed on these layouts. And I think there's a reason why he won on a non-typical US Open venue, is that's the one place he had a chance. Now, Jordan Spieth will win more major championships. I have no doubt about that, but I really do think that they will come at the Masters again, or indeed the Open Championship. And I think Spieth could go very well next month at Royal St. George's, and especially next year at St. Andrews, where he came so close to winning in 2015. But I think the US Open for Spieth, I think he might have just won his one US Open, and that might be it for him in this event. He'll win other majors, but I don't think it's going to be this week.
Jordan, did you hear that? Yeah, that wasn't me. Okay.
Look, I would love to be wrong. I really would.
I have you on my top 5. Yeah, no, that wasn't me. I'll talk to you later. Okay. All right. Thank you. So now,
I just holler out your window at Jordan, can't you? I mean, he's your neighbor there or something.
Yeah, he's just down the road, isn't he? Yeah.
Practically down the road. But anyway, how about world number 1, Dustin Johnson? He has posted top 10 finishes in 5 of the last 7 US Opens, including when he won in 2016 at Oakmont. So, Kieran, how about DJ? I mean, he seems to show signs of being back to that world's number 1. So how about DJ and his chances this week?
It seems really strange that he's the world number 1, given that we haven't really been speaking about him all year, and he hasn't really done anything this calendar year to justify being world number 1, to tell you the truth. But he's missed the cut in both of the previous majors, at the Masters and the PGA. But his US Open record is very, very good. Obviously won it at Oakmont, but some excellent finishes around that as well. So he tends to play very well on these longer, very tough golf courses where he drives the ball extremely well. Obviously, he's a very long hitter, but he also a very accurate driver as well. And obviously in the past 5 or 6 years, his wedge game has become fantastic. And that's why he's been the dominant force that he's been for the past few seasons. Hasn't been, the odd decent round of late, nothing consistently there. I find it really hard with Dustin to rule him out entirely, because the ability is just so prodigious. It's so exceptional when he's at his best. He might very well be the world number 1. He might be the best player we have in the game right now. Certainly his record in the past 5 years would back that up. So, I mean, it's about time that we saw him step up again and be that player, because we've almost forgotten about the Masters in November, because it was there, it was great, he won it, played fantastically. Then we had Hideki 5 months later winning that one. So we almost forgot about Dustin winning the Masters. He didn't really get the rub that you usually get for winning Augusta. It was such a quick turnaround from the fall into the spring. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's hard to rule him out because he is such a good player and he's so capable, but I don't I just don't see it this week. I just think he's still got a little way to go to find his consistent game again. And he might get it in time for the Open Championship next month. We came very close there actually a decade ago at St. George's when he lost to Darren Clark. I could see Dustin, going on to win the FedEx Cup later in the season. But I think his best form just isn't there right now. And I think you need to have something like that to win at Torrey Pines.
How about you, Fred?
Yeah, I don't. I think Dustin has a real chance. He hasn't been quite as sharp this year as we've seen him in the past. So I don't know what's going on with that. And a lot of times his driving, when he's playing that fade out there, he's finding fairways. But lately he's not been as accurate with that driver. So I don't know if he's changed some stuff, changed some of his setup with his equipment. What TaylorMade's doing there, but he's not been as accurate as he was when he was winning a lot. And so, but that being said, and Kieran touched on it, the guy has so much talent, so much ability, and it's through the whole bag. I mean, he really doesn't have a weakness per se. Maybe his putting at times is not quite as good as you'd like to see, but Dustin Johnson is a tremendous talent, and I wouldn't count him out, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him win or be top 5 at all.
So how about now, let's talk about Rory. It's been 7 years since he won a major, and seems incredible that by this time in 2021, I think we would have been talking about him over 10 majors already, by the way that he was starting his career. And it's not that he has become a bad player. He's just haven't been that successful on the majors. So Fred, how about Rory McIlroy? I know he still has that streak of cuts going in. He's looking for another top finish here after an 8th place showing at this tournament last year. So how about Rory McIlroy's chances?
Well, in 2019, I mean, Rory was just about the best player on the planet. I mean, he had like 8 top 10s in a row or top 5s or something. I mean, he was unbelievable in 2019. 2020 during COVID, he kind of went away. He didn't like it, whether there were no fans there or whatever, I don't know, but he didn't play that well in 2020. And then he started chasing distance, trying to catch Bryson DeChambeau, totally got him out of rhythm, totally got him out of his swing. And now he's working with Pete Cowan, and he comes back and right away he wins at the Wells Fargo. So that, again, to me, like Muirfield Village, that golf course that they play the Wells Fargo in, if you can win on that golf course, you can win a U.S. Open. And Rory has the ability, if he will just dial it back a little bit, get the ball in the fairway, and then get it up on the green, rely on his putter and not try to just stake every iron, just make pars, take what the golf course gives you, don't try to force it. I see Rory trying to force it all the time. He's got his foot down on the pedal a lot when he ought to just back off a little bit, play that little fade, play it back into the fairway, get it on the green, then let's see what happens. He's a good enough putter that he could make some things happen if he just keeps it out of trouble.
Kieran, Rory McIlroy seems like he's all or nothing. I mean, he especially here, he has made the cut 3 of his last 6 times, but he has also been 3 top 10 finishes in his last 6 trips to the tournament as well. So, but one thing that I noticed is that he gets off to a bad start, and he's trying to pick it up afterwards, and it's just too much for him to overcome. Yeah. Maybe a good start for him. Maybe like Fred is saying, calm down, let's try to keep the ball in play. What do you think about Rory? Would this be the time for him to finally win another major?
I think that's a great point you make there, Carlos, about the bad starts that he has. And we talk about Rory not winning majors. The first thing he has to do is actually give himself a chance to win a major. And he hasn't done that for a long time. He's had top 10 finishes in majors in the past couple of years, but they've been the backdoor ones where he sort of slides in at the end and just had a 75 on Thursday and comes back from there after that point. he has not started majors well for a long time consistently. Really not since the 2018 Open at Carnoustie. That's the last time he had a really proper chance of winning a major, when he was right there in contention. He's had good finishes since then, but he's never really been in that, the heat on Sunday. But he has to give himself that chance to get there. And Fred touched on it being more conservative and trying to rein himself in a little bit. And it's frustrating to watch, because Rory McIlroy is an extraordinary generational talent. We can all see that. We know how good he is. Maybe he's actually too good, when he backs himself to do all these things all the time. Whereas, on the other hand, you have to be more conservative, particularly in these tough venues, because you're not always going to have your best every single day, and you will get punished. And it's really important to stay in the championship after Thursday. Don't be in this position where you're having to make the cut on Friday and then you're 10 shots behind going into the weekend. It's just, you can't win from there. And he's been doing that far too often of late. So if he has a good start, then he has a great chance, because he's Rory McIlroy. He can obviously build on that. I think it's essential that he gets, shoots a good round on Thursday and then builds on it from there. We look at Phil Mickelson. Phil obviously hadn't been anywhere near winning a major really for 5 years before he won at the PGA. We go back to Troon in the Open, that great duel with Henrik Stenson. Since then, he had done nothing in a major. But these great players, they have this experience and the memories of winning and that instinct built in their brain. They just have to give themselves the chance to do it again. And when Phil got into that chance to win another major, it was like Tiger at the Masters 2 years ago. They don't forget it. It's just getting in that position. They know what to do. And Rory hasn't got himself in that position. And if he does, then he's won 4 majors and won all these other fantastic tournaments. He has so much experience, but he has to give himself the platform to actually deploy it and use that advantage he has over the other guys. So it is absolutely essential that Rory, never mind winning a major, just gives himself a chance to actually win one again. And that starts on Thursday and shooting a very solid round. And if he does that, then who knows? We could finally see Rory as a major champion again, or at very least having a chance to win.
It's so tough, right? Because you see Rory, he knows he has the skills. He knows he has the game. So he's confident about attacking any golf course. If he's on, he knows he's going to win. But to hold back a little bit, it's like trying to get this Ferrari to just drive it through downtown. It's going to be tough, but we'll see if he can do it. And if he can slow it down a little bit, let the game get to him, maybe he'll be able to do it. Fred, Patrick Cantlay and Colin Morikawa, fantastic playoff there at the Memorial. Of course, it came at the expense of John Ram being forced to withdraw, but nonetheless, they put on a good show without the big guy in there. So can they keep that momentum going into the U.S. Open?
Yeah, I like both of these guys. As you know, I'm a big Colin Morikawa fan. I was really disappointed when he didn't pull it off at Muirfield Village to win 2 years in a row there. But, well, he didn't win the Memorial. He'd won the Drive On, or whatever, not Drive On, the charity, workday charity thing the week before the Memorial in 2020. But then, he was in the hunt this year with Cantlay. But, yeah, both of these guys have the game. There's no question about it. Cantlay, to me, sometimes it appears to me like he lets conditions or his play that day get him down, and he doesn't give his best effort. I don't know if that's a valid point, but it just appears that way to me. Colin Morikawa, his putting is still suspect. Every part of his game is great. He's a tremendous driver of the golf ball, tremendous iron player, has a beautiful golf swing, adequate around the greens, but his putting is still a little suspect, even though he's gone to the different grip on that putting stroke. So I don't know. He's a California guy. So is Cantlay. So it would be, I'm sure they would both love to win in California and at this golf course. I don't know about having them in my top 5, but they're probably top 10 prospects, I think, this week for sure.
What you think, Kieran, about Patrick and Colin?
Yeah, I think Fred touches on a really good point with Patrick Cantlay, where he has all the tools in the world. He's such a fantastic all-round player, but he has consistently underperformed in the majors, particularly in the past 2 or 3 years. And I think that's because, and Fred mentioned it there, I think he has a habit of letting rounds get away from himself a little bit, where he's not very good at bouncing back from a mistake or a bad start. He just seems to kind of drift away at times in rounds. And he did that at the PGA at Kiawah Island, where he hit the ball beautifully all week, but he just struggled in the greens and just kind of drifted off at the weekend in the final round. And that's a question mark with him. I mean, it's all fine having all the tools and all the ability, but that doesn't mean you're going to win. I mean, just because you can and he can doesn't mean that you will. I mean, look at Xander.
Not everybody has a Patrick Reed mentality.
Yes. I mean, look at Xander Schauffele, who has all the ability in the world, but just doesn't seem to have whether it's an edge or just the ability to just cross that line. And maybe Cantley's a little bit similar, where he has all the skills, but just not quite the mentality. But obviously he's a very good player. He's a recent winner. Be confident coming to obviously his home state. So you never know. But I think there's question marks there, perhaps more mentally. Whereas with Morikawa, as Fred touched on, it's putting. I mean, his game's outstanding. He's played very solidly in the past few months. I mean, a lot of top 10 finishes there. I don't think he's actually missed a cut in 2021. I mean, he's very consistent play, as you would expect from such a great ball striker, great iron player, great driver. Does he have? If he can have a hot week on the greens, then absolutely he could be a champion here, because he will give himself chances and he will not make the double bogeys that other guys will. I think he'll be a very solid, steady player. Maybe a week of pars will suit him. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I don't think either guy's going to win. I think Fred said that he could be top 10 players. I think would not be surprised if they both finish there and pick up a nice check for themselves, and potentially obviously Ryder Cup points as well. Obviously boosted in the major week too. But yeah, two fantastic players. But question marks there. But that said, I mean, there's question marks in a lot of these, the top 10 players in the world right now, from DJ downwards. I mean, there aren't too many guys there that you look at and say, yes, he's guaranteed to win, or really, really confident, because they're not all in great form, and there's little niggles and doubts there too, which makes it potentially very interesting and might very well open the door for somebody to come from left field and maybe win. So wait till we get to the picks.
Yeah, I have something special for all of you, especially those who likes the saber metric. So Fred, how about before we go for our picks to win, those horses for the course, right? Those that play well here or have won before, like Xander Schauffele. Hey, this is a home course basically for him. You have Mark Leishman, you have Brent Snedeker, Justin Day. Those two have won twice here, so they have some shot there. Justin Rose. How about the chances of these horses for the course?
I don't think Brant Snedeker. I think they've got the course stretched back too far for him. Jason Day has won a couple times here. He's still having back issues and health issues, so I don't like his chances. But Rahm is one of those guys. You got Justin Rose, Leishman. I like a lot. If I were going to probably pick my top European or international, it would probably have to be Mark Leishman. And so, I like a couple of those guys, but like Snedeker and Day, I don't see them doing well this week.
What you think, Kieran?
Well, Jason Day is not even in the field, and that's how far he's fallen. He hasn't even qualified
so
for the US Open this year.
Well, at all.
Yeah, so he has literally no chance of winning. Yeah, I mean, it's a real fall from grace for Jason Day in the past few years. Really struggled, and it just shows you how a guy that was at the top of the game and we were thinking could do spectacular things, and just hasn't quite happened since then for whatever reason. But elsewhere, I mean, a lot of those guys, Justin Rose, has shown some signs of life of late, but just not enough. You wouldn't have thought to really be a contender this week, but of course you never know. Mark Leishman's someone who you also look at majors and think, yeah, he's he has the game, he has enough experience to do really well. Absolutely could be on that list. But I'm actually looking at the guys who haven't necessarily won the event, but have actually contended in the past couple of years to do well. And I look at one guy who finished second this year, to Patrick Reed, the one guy that really gave him a run on that final round, and that was Victor Hovland. I think this could be a week for him to do something very impressive.
All right, so now it's the time. I want you to tell me your 5 picks to win and give me some dark horses there. You don't need to explain. We've talked about them a lot right now. So just give me, Kieran, I'm going to start with you. 5 players to win and some of your dark horses to win as well.
Well, I'm just they're all in together on my 5 here. So I'm going to have John Ram, which I think is obvious. You can't really, he has to be on that top 5 list. In terms of more outside players in there too, I've got, well, not really outside players because he's one of the favourites really, or outside favourites. It's Louis Oosthuizen, who was third last year at the US Open, of course second at the PGA, finished second now in 5 different majors, and he hasn't missed a major cut since 2017. How this guy hasn't won in America, I don't know. It could be this week. What a wonderful golfer he is. I mentioned Victor Hovland. He was second at Torrey Pines earlier in the year. We haven't yet seen him contend in a major championship. Obviously, a wonderful player. USGA, US Amateur champion, of course, has that history there too. This could be the week for him to actually have a taste of that major contention. Whether he wins from that, I'm not sure, but I think he'll do quite well. And I also think somebody who will do well this week is Will Zalatoris, who, of course, has been this sensation in the majors in this past year. He was 8th at the PGA. Of course, he was second at Augusta National behind Matsuyama, and he was 6th last year in the US Open at Winged Foot. And he was 7th place earlier in the year at Torrey Pines in the Farmers Insurance. So no wins yet on the PGA Tour for Will Zalatoris, but he has just the power, he has the accuracy, and he has, I think, the attitude to do well here. And I think he has something special about him. And, you know, we've seen players in the past make their first professional win, a US Open, you know, notably Jack Nicklaus, and you know, Will Zalatoris. You can follow in his footsteps. So I fancy him to do well this week. And you mentioned 5 picks, Carlos. I mean, I actually only had 4 players on the list. You asked me for a 5th now to complete the list. I'm got 2 names here. I'm going to go for the romantic one because I don't necessarily believe it, but I want to believe it. And that's Phil Mickelson. What a story it would be. It would be unbelievable. So, yeah, this is my top 5.
All right. So, Fred, how about you? Give me your 5 and maybe some dark horses to win.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into a big installation, but I'm just going to say I too, John Rahm, I think coming off the Memorial, what he was doing, he's got something to prove. I really like him a lot. I like DJ. I like Xander Schauffele. And I'm going to throw you a kind of a name here, maybe out of left field a little bit. Ryan Palmer does really well on tough golf courses. He drives the ball straight, and he's a really good putter. I think he would have a shot this week. And also, this course, Justin Rose has played well here in the past, and his game is made for a U.S. Open. You know, he could be a real guy this week. And I'll give you my dark horse. Bubba Watson has won here before, and he's been playing decent lately. So there's my dark horse for you.
All right, that sounds good. So I'm going to tell you my top 5, and that'll be John Ram. It's my favorite to win. Brooks Koepka, Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, and Hideki Matsuyama.
Oh, I forgot.
We haven't talked about Hideki at all. You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming.
He was a runner-up to Brooks Koepka when he won in 2017. So he knows how to play here. He's playing really well. I can't let him out of my top 5 here.
I must say, Carlos, I was actually expecting it to be
Sergio.
Garrett
Where's
Higgo.
Sergio?
Well, so yeah, I thought it'd be Garrett Higgo would be your 5th choice there. I was convinced it was going to be Garrett Higgo. That's disappointed by that.
He's getting there. He's getting there.
He's 6th on the list, potentially, yes.
Yeah, he's getting there. So that's why I had to leave him out. But maybe for the Open. I really have him for the Open. So
okay.
Now, my dark horses, right? Because they're not off the top players right now, but they're really good. Louis Oosthuizen, you guys mentioned him. I think he's playing really well, and he has just the game to win here and at least do well. Patrick Reed, I think he's going to do well this week. Will Zalatoris, I've been on him since he was on the Korn Ferry Tour, and I'm not going to let him go right now. Justin Rose is the other one. Now, for those who like betting and those things like mathematics and statistics and all that over the last...
I'm taking notes.
over the last 20 years, the average golf ranking of the winner has been 21.95. And the average age has been 29.85.
Okay.
Who's the only player on the field that gets with that is Abraham Answer. He's 21 and he's 30.
Wow.
So watch out. That's for you
There's
there.
your long
For
shot.
those who
That's
like
it
statistics,
there.
that's the guy, Abraham Answer. So anyway, Kieran, some final words before we close.
No, well, I say again, another great week ahead of us, I think. Again, a venue obviously has great history from 2008. It's going to be a real proper US Open setup, as Fred touched on earlier, perhaps the last of the Reece Jones setups at the US Open. A different template going forward in many respects. Some of these more traditional venues that are being restored back to early 20th century standards. So it's kind of the long, rough, narrow fairways that might be going out of fashion a little bit at the USGA. This could be the last great kind of, if you love that sort of thing, which is a bit divisive, but if you're into that, then this could be the last one for you for a while. So you better enjoy it. Though so many great players, obviously are not necessarily in great form right now. It's a very wide open US Open. I mean, there's much like the PGA, it was also very wide open, and look who won that. So, I mean, I think it really sets us up for a potentially really unpredictable week, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a really scenic venue. The weather forecast is fantastic, so it's going to look great on TV. Hopefully, they avoid some of the sea mist that comes over there often and get clear skies. And if we get that, I think we'll have a real picturesque major. So hopefully it delivers on all the promise, and we have a great champion and a great story. As I always say, root for the story. That's what we always want to see, is the great headline makers and the great names and great memorable tales that happen in the majors, because the majors need to be special, and winners make them special. And the PGA this year was special. The Masters was special because of the winner. And hopefully we make it 3 in a row in terms of the men's majors, and we have another great champion this week at Torrey Pines.
Well, Fred, this might not be a tradition like any other, but this is going to be a rough like any other. So how about this final words on the US Open?
Guys, there's 9,000 guys that tried to qualify for this thing. 88 players are exempt. There's 156 players in the field. There's 9 former US Open champions in the field. Dustin Johnson, Rory, Spieth, Webb, Rose, Koepka, Bryson, Gary Woodland, and Martin Keimer. Okay, we haven't talked about Martin. All of them, with the exception of maybe Keimer and Woodland, have been playing fairly well coming into the week. Although Woodland has 2 top 10s this year, and Keimer has been showing signs of regaining his world-class form in Europe, I don't give them much chance. Then you have the reigning PGA champion, Phil Mickelson, who has won 3 times here. Xander Schauffele, who's a San Diego resident, knows his course very well. And then you got John Rahm, who's just playing like lights out the last time we saw him. The USGA will have Torrey set up difficult. These are great players at the top of their games, should be fantastic. And in memory of all this, I watched Tin Cup the other night. And don't we have Devlin's Billabong right in front of the 18th green? So it's all set up for somebody to pump a couple shots in there. So let's root for that.
Oh, you cruel man, Fred Altvater. You can't have that.
It's a defining moment.
Could you imagine if Phil Mickelson stands in the last hole with a chance to win and he has a Tin Cup moment? I'll be thinking of you. I'll fly over and get you, Fred, if it happens. I'll strangle you, because that would be horrendous.
I don't know how to close this show.
Good night. Goodbye. That's it. See you next time.
Thank you for joining us. It's always our pleasure to bring you the latest. I can't. To bring you the latest in the world of golf news and information. Thank you, Kieran, for joining us. It's always our pleasure to have you here. You're always great. We always have a great time and great information from you. So join us. Subscribe to the channel just to keep up to date with the latest in news and information in golf. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the US Open.